Discover the best-kept secrets from the leading entrepreneurs across the globe. Learn from the greatest minds in business with the MyCoda podcast. Here's your host, Sam Payne.
Okay, what's up everybody? Sam Payne here, and thank you for joining me for today's session of the MyCoda podcast. Now, today's guest is Joe Gilani. Now, I was excited to interview Joe because he started off his journey by carrying out interviews with people at networking events, and these were high-flying entrepreneurs who were multi-millionaires, specialists within their industry, globally recognised. And Joe made it his mission to go out and find and speak to these people and ask them what their one piece of advice would be to help people in their businesses. And over time, Joe has managed to put together some great content, which he's now got in his membership site, Mindset Choice. And as a result of this, Joe has become a networking expert, and he firmly believes, and it's his passion to connect people from varying businesses to business and help other people grow their own businesses through his company. And that's ultimately what he's working towards with his new company that he's launching later on in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So I won't go into that in too much detail. I'll let Joe talk about that a lot more at the end of the show. But this is a great show, guys, because Joe is recognised as an expert in networking. He's a speaker. He's an expert business strategist. And he has just given so much value in this interview. So sit back, enjoy this one, guys. I'll leave the introduction here. Here is session 005 of the MyCoda podcast. Okay, hi Joe, how are we doing?
Great, thank you Sam so much. I hope all is well on that end.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited for this interview, so I really appreciate your time. Before we start, Joe, just for the guys out there that may not be familiar with you, could you just please introduce yourself and what it is you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, first and foremost, my name is Joe Gilani. Thanks for having me here on the podcast, Sam. Networking enthusiast from New York, born and raised in New York City, Queens, New York to be exact. And over the years specifically, I've been fortunate enough to travel around and network with a lot of different business gurus, and I've learned so much specifically. And I'm currently working on a business that has to do with networking online, and excited for the opportunity. But this is a great opportunity here to speak to you and get to know you as well. But yeah, I'm a network enthusiast from New York. I own my own company. I will speak about it more on the interview, but that's who I am.
Brilliant. And we're going to come on to the networking in a lot more detail later on in the interview, because I know you've got some great advice for people and some great insights into getting into that. But the theme of this podcast is purely about business startups. And I'd like to get into how guys that I'm interviewing started out and the challenges they faced. So if you could just take us back to when you first started out, what change took place in you that made you decide to want to become an entrepreneur and start your own business?
Yeah, so I graduated from St. John's University over in Queens, New York, about 4 years ago, a couple of years back, and I knew that I wanted to work in the sports industry on the ground level. I wanted to understand it from a sales perspective. So I went out and, of course, I networked and I connected with people from around the country in the U.S. and even people like internationally. And I came about an opportunity to actually move to Australia, out of all places, to work with an Australian baseball league team out there. And at the time, I had no idea there was baseball in Australia. Nobody does. And even the Australians are surprised about baseball in Australia. But Major League Baseball actually funds the Australian Baseball League. So it was something that was just in congruency with what I was looking to do. It was very bottom level. I wanted to learn a good perspective of the business. So I moved over for just about a year. And I did that, and I kept on switching roles to different teams after that because of the opportunity. So I went from Australia out to San Diego. I was with the San Diego Padres for another year. I was doing that sales, like in corporate sales, where I would sell the suites and the memberships for the year. And then from there, there was a swap in the front offices between the San Diego Padres and the Miami Dolphins. So I ended up going to the Miami Dolphins for some time. I was there for about a year and a half. And, it was a great learning experience for me, and just seeing that, this networking thing, it's really working. And I saw it more of like networking and connecting than I did like going from job to job. That was a really difference maker of me continuing to make connections. And that's when I realized at a point in time where I wasn't really making as much time to see my family. And even if I wanted to, I didn't have the autonomy to do so. Like, regardless of how cool it is to work in the sports industry in the corporate world, it's still the corporate world and you're still working corporate hours. So you don't have as much autonomy to be able to just go off and see your family. So that's when I made the transition. I moved back to New York, and I said it was easy for me to say, let me start from scratch with a lot more experience, but let me start from scratch and look to build something that I can scale.
Yeah, and that's a really common trend. When I'm speaking to a lot of guys, they talk about how they were in that corporate environment, and one of their main drivers was it wasn't the money. Money's normally not an issue when you're in the corporate world. It's just the time, purely having the time. So how difficult did you find going from that corporate environment into setting up your own business?
Yeah, it's a real challenge at the beginning, specifically because it's like you could still, it really depends on how disciplined you are as a person. For me, it wasn't as hard because I love the grind of having the structure of, like, this is when I'm starting, this is when I'm getting started. And like, I understood that. I also had to be able to adjust to different things, that if I had to go longer on a project, then I just have to adjust my schedule. It wasn't like I have to do this, but then like clock out at 6 p.m. I just start the next day at 9:30. It doesn't work that way, as you know. So it really had to adjust it. And it was fun because I learned a lot more about myself. And I'm sure that you hear that a lot. People just learn more about themselves when they start stretching themselves, like how they are and what comes up and what thoughts they have when certain things happen that they're not used to. So it really just became, it was the scheduling. The scheduling was cool, and making more time to do things like reading, because I didn't make as much time as when I was in the corporate world, or just learning from different people, and that's another thing that I enjoyed. I loved, one of the biggest things I told you, I'm a networking enthusiast. I love sitting down and having a cup of coffee and learning about somebody, what their experiences was, how they got there, why they're doing, sort of like what you're doing here, Sam.
Yeah.
I love doing that, right? So it's a passion of mine, and I had more time to do it, so I was able to learn more. So my growth rate and my learning rate, actually, it became quicker because of the fact that I had more autonomy on my time.
Yeah, and I want to touch on a point you just covered there on, because we're going to talk about networking a lot more in detail in a minute, but when you first started networking and getting in these circles with these different people, what was that first thing that made you realize that this is actually something that's really going to make a difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. That was actually right before, I haven't even told this story yet. That was before I even went to college. That was back when, because my backstory a little bit, my parents, they've been in the real estate industry for about 30 years. And I would sit, whenever they had, back when they had their own office in 2000 and, I want to say 2, we lived right next door to the office, so they worked all the time, right? So I'd be the kid, doing my homework in the closing room, where I would sit next to my dad while he's in an appointment and just listen in while I'm doing my math homework, right? Yeah. So that was there too, and I would always go to the sales trainings, and they'd bring international corporate trainers. I'd always sit in the back. So I just started to learn about the culture at an early age, but then right out of high school, I said, I don't want to do real estate because I don't want to do what my parents do. Like, that's just what my story was. So I did mortgages instead, right? So it was on the other end of the spectrum. And a part of that was having to go door to door to different real estate offices to be able to introduce myself and connect and just build a relationship. And I noticed that, number one, I already love doing that. So I love connecting with people, meeting with people. But then in doing that, I actually learned how much I was passionate about actually just going door to door. And then I realized that there's a lot of people who don't like doing that. So that I noticed that was a difference maker. Yeah. I was like, I love doing what other people do. I'm terrified about. Yeah. And I wasn't trying to be overly confident about it. I was just like, this is really cool. I have to take this opportunity and scale it. Like, what else can I do with this? Yeah. And that's when I really learned, hey, look, I could make a whole networking, and I could group, and I could really do this worldwide, because people love people who love people. Yeah. And that was my main thing, my main message that I ran with.
Yeah, you almost make door-to-door sales sound romantic, Joe.
That's actually one of my skills on my resume. But no, that's awesome. That is, it's fun. It's definitely, you could say that it's a romantic story for me because that's just how I look at it. But that's funny that you put it that way.
Yeah, you're the first person I've ever met that spoke about door-to-door sales so passionately. But no, so when you first set out on this whole networking adventure, you interviewed 100 highly successful entrepreneurs in 100 days. Why did you decide to do this? Why 100 in 100 days?
Yeah, so the 100 videos in 100 days, and some of them were with me by myself, but speaking about things that I learned from other people, right? So if I couldn't get live with somebody for whatever reason, they were on the other side of the world or just weren't available, I'd speak about things that I learned from them. And I did the 100 days specifically because I was working on I was actually in a program with a guy who worked directly with Tony Robbins. His name is Raul Velasquez, right? Good mentor, trainer of mine. And he was running a program called the Edge 100, where it's like you have to go do things consistently over the period of 100 days. And I just ran with the whole theme of 100 days. I said, let me do 100 videos, 100 days. I'm going to do free videos. I'm just going to try it out. It was sort of like a beta testing to see what people would think about my content in case I wanted to do anything. And along the 100 days, I got all different feedback, really good feedback. Also not so good feedback about this and that. A lot of people were judgmental, and I understand it. But it's good feedback. That's the only thing, is that I always took it as feedback. And the 100 days just made sense for me. And I just happened to be at places where there was people of high caliber. They've done extraordinary things, which is awesome. And it just worked out. It really aligned with at the same time, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah. This guy's here. I have to ask him to shoot a quick 2 to 3 minute video. Tell me what's the one thing that you learned that was better than anything else you ever learned. Like something dramatic. Yeah. And just to make it quick and easy on the go. And it worked out. I mean, it was really cool. And it's, I could look back on the videos and I think about those things, and I think about in the future, when I have children and obviously when I think back when I have grandchildren, they're going to look back and they'll be able to see like, oh, that's my grandfather. That's my father. Like he did all these videos, and that's cool. That was the cool part about it, to be able to leave that legacy. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think one key point we should probably draw from that is a lot of people are scared just to put themselves out there. Because when they're setting out, I mean, I speak to a lot of guys who they've got this, they come to me with a great idea, and I say, cool, sir, who's seen this idea? Who's give you any feedback on this? And they're too scared to actually go out and even present an idea to someone, let alone throw themselves in front of people like you have. So I think people can learn a lot from your experiences there. And when you go into this, you cover 4 main areas: business, mindset, relationships, and wellness. What's so key about these 4 categories in particular, and why do you choose to set your interviews around them?
Well, I think about, when you think about what I think about my skill sets first, right? Of course, what can I do to serve people? And it's really connecting and connecting the dots, networking, particularly in sales, because that's where sales and marketing really, because that's where that's where networking could really be the biggest differentiator. But when I think about other areas of life that are outside of that, and like business, obviously there's wellness, as you know. Sam, you own CrossFit, you understand that. The struggles of how people, they might be thriving in business, but they might be the most unhealthy person because they just don't work out, or they just don't stay healthy. I think about the relationship that somebody's in. Again, people can thrive in business, but they might be not, doing terrible in the relationship. There might not be any connection there at all. And then the mindset is more of like your being, the connection you have with yourself. Because in the end, if there's no connection with yourself, then how could you really connect with anything else? So I just wanted to divide it out. And there's things out there that use similar things, similar concepts. So I can't say that I reinvented the wheel, but I just wanted to be able to do that and share content on different categories that weren't just within my realm, but I wouldn't be speaking of them. Like, I'm not speaking as the expert. I'm bringing in the people who are the experts and presenting them that way.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest difference. That was it. But that's why I did it. I mean, they're all cool things, and there are things that I focus on now every single day. And part of that program that I did with Raul is the 100 days. We're focusing on those 4 categories. We're focusing on growing in each one. So my days. I did this program earlier this year. My day had completely changed. Because now I'm like thinking, I'm breaking up my day. Let's just say a 16-hour day. I'm breaking it up into 4 quadrants where a quarter of it I'm focusing on my let's just say my fitness or my health or my wellness, and then a quarter of it or 2 quarters of it I'm focusing on my business. Another quarter of it I'm focusing on again my relationship and making sure that's there. So every single day I'm growing every single brick by brick.
Yeah.
And I share this a lot. It's really good content is think about when you're building a house and you have the 4 walls, right? You have 4 walls on a house, on like a typical house, right? 4 walls. And if you build 1 wall or 2 walls or 3 walls, it's just, it's going to be cold at night. It's going to be freezing. If it rains at night, it's not going to be so good. But if you build every single wall at the same time, by the time you finish the house, you'll probably finish a lot quicker. But by the time you're done, there's going to be coverage all around. So you'll be solidified. You have the foundation for yourself. And that was just the concept that I did with the 4.
Yeah, I love that. And I suppose a lot of it comes down to, because a lot of people focus so much on their business, especially in the startup phase. They can't just bury themselves in just getting systems in place, software in place, people on board, blah, 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 blah. But what they do neglect to do is make time for self-development. I mean, how important you've obviously touched on it there, but say if someone's just starting up a company, how important do you feel it is for them to utilise time for self-development, and how can they really utilise this time? What can they practice in this time to really try and build on these 4 principles?
Yeah, so it's so important, Sam. Like, you see nowadays, and I speak to a lot of people who are much elderly than me, and we're in a day and age where so many people could tap into self-development so much easier than it's ever been before. Plus, obviously, with the videos and everybody putting out videos nowadays, and it's just like, it's so now that as soon as you get an idea, you could put it out in a video within like probably like 60 seconds. And now people are seeing that content, and then they're learning it and they're bringing it. So it's just such a chain of connection that it's there. But now it's like something that before it was something that you just had to do. Now it's something that it just has to be on your schedule to be able to do it. And then it's just so part of a life. But it's so important. I mean, you think about the different stories. Like if you look 20 years ago, and if you look at like the average male, there's a good possibility that they had their spark at the beginning of their career because they were hungry. They were all about it, and then they start their business. It's doing well, and then they get married and they have kids, and they feel like they lost that inner energy, that inner balance that they had before, that same edge that they had before. And they feel like they lost it, right? So, and I see that happening. I've seen that happen a lot to a lot of men, and obviously you could revert that. But if you start early on with the self-development, and I mean a young age, and you continue to make that one of your bricks, and you continue to make that one of your walls, then over time, everything is going to go according to plan. So even at the start of a business, you want to thrive and you want to be able to put into business, but you could still make time to spend time with your parents. You could still make time to spend time with your significant other. Like that doesn't change. It doesn't change. Yes, I feel like everybody wants to be in a rush to be able to thrive in their business and to become a millionaire, whatever it is that they want to become. But the truth is that even when you become that and you don't have that solidified relationship with the people that you love, you probably won't feel as full when you do become that. So that's one of the things I always look at when I reflect. Yeah.
I mean, I think Gary Vaynerchuk says it perfectly when he talks about he's got friends that are worth $10, $20 million and they're miserable. Just so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to your interviews, you turned that into a membership program, Mindset Choice. Was that always the aim, or was it something that just naturally developed and turned into a business?
No, that's actually not. It wasn't always the aim. I appreciate you asking that. I did the 100 videos in 100 days just to test it out. I wanted to see what came about. I had no idea on day one what it would become or if it would become anything. I just said I want to do 100 videos in 100 days. I know that I'm going to do it. I just don't know what's going to come from it, right? So I think it was on like day 50 something. I was over in London, and I know this is somebody you interviewed previously to me, Richard Moore, right?
Yeah.
Richard Moore.
Yeah, Rich was great, yeah.
So Rich is great. I met with him, and such a fantastic guy, a high business acumen, as you know. And we sat down. Literally, he had about 10 minutes. And I said, okay, so the first 8 minutes we'll discuss this, and then we'll do a video. And so we sat down, and I told him what I was doing. He was like, hey, why don't you create like a video membership website? And I'm like, you're the second person to tell me that, but for some reason it's more impactful when you say it. Because just the way he said it, so super amicable, and he was just so welcoming. So I was like, okay, then I'll do this. I'll do exactly that. And he told me what to do. And of course we shot the video. But when I got back over to New York from London, I started to arrange it. I got it done, and then on the 100th day, I launched it. I was like, hey, let me try it because I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. And I just started to get people to contribute towards it, and it really turned out to be something that I used to not only to market myself, but also to market another way to raise funds for a startup. Yeah, and it was different. It was just me leveraging what I'm good at. I like to speak in front of the camera. I like to speak in front of people. It's a passion of mine. And why not leverage what you're good at, and that's what's out there, to actually get where you're looking to go, right? And for me, I wanted to start a business, and I wanted to start the right capital, get the right capital to be able to start it. And, I was able to do that through that concept of 100 videos in 100 days.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love that. That was literally a decision that was made in an 8-minute conversation with someone. That's brilliant.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, Richard Moore.
Yeah, and I mean, through these videos, you've interviewed some of the greatest minds in business today. Who were the most influential people you interviewed, and why?
Yeah, I think that two of them come to mind. Actually, three of them come to mind off the bat. One of them I did not interview on a video, but I did speak. I spoke about him briefly in a couple of videos. Like I just plugged them in. I think my top guy overall, out of all of them, was specifically Jeff Hoffman, he's the founder of one of the co-founders of Priceline, right? So I don't think he's involved as much. He was a CEO and a co-founder. And, the guy gave me 45 minutes of his time. He was super genuine, really was open with me and honest. And I told him what I was looking to do, and he said, well, what are you going to do about it? And just gave me some stories, and it was just great. It was really, really something that I don't think I've had a conversation that was more soothing from somebody of like that caliber. I think it was just like he wasn't speaking down to me. He wasn't speaking that he was better than me. He spoke to me like him and I are the same. And that's one thing I appreciated, and I took on for myself. Look, I want to be like that, when I'm there. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome, and I think that's it's a common trait amongst a lot of these highly successful guys. Is they're just genuine guys, they're genuine people, especially when I'm approaching them for interviews. It's almost initially I was almost worried or scared to approach these people, but actually they're really cool, and they're just happy to help. So no, it's awesome. Like you've experienced that as well, and I think that's a good lesson for people who are looking either for mentors or people that can help them out in their business, to just approach them, because unless they're super busy, 9 times out of 10 they'll probably give you a little bit of their time. So and what key lessons did you learn from some of these individuals that you apply in your business today?
I think the main one that it's always my favorite, and I always talk to people about this. It was from Jeff. I'm going to tell his story, but I'm going to do it in a speedy way because it's a long story. But he was telling me a story about 20 years ago. I guess his sister came back from, I think it was a Billy Joel concert. And, back then they had the Kodaks and the Polaroid pictures. So she brought her back home. She showed him a picture of Billy Joel at the concert. And he looked at the picture and said, hey, who is that? Like, you're sitting in the top tier. How could you see who that is? Why would you even go there if you can't even see who that is? And she told him, well, first of all, you don't know who Billy Joel is, and you'll never know who he is. And he says, well, I bet you like in 10, 15 years, him and I will be best friends. And she said, never in a million years would you ever be best friends with Billy Joel. And So he got offended because I was just that's the type of person he was like, if he wants something, he's gonna figure out a way to get it. So he literally sat down and made time on his schedule to think about how he was going to become best friends with Billy Joel. And remember, this is way before he had accomplished anything. So, so he actually started to think about it. He was like, let me not make this hard for myself. Let me make it easy. And he started to think about what it would be like if he was best friends with Billy Joel already. And he's thinking, okay, I'm sitting down. He's envisioning, I'm sitting down with Billy Joel, and we're at a coffee shop, and we're best friends. We're laughing, ha ha ha, like this is great. We're just cracking jokes. And he's thinking, like, what had to happen for that to happen? Well, he said he would probably have to invite Billy Joel. He'd probably have to have Billy Joel's number. Well, what would have to happen for that to happen? Well, he probably would have to work with Billy Joel in the music industry because Billy Joel's in the music industry. Well, what had to happen for that to happen? Well, he had to start his own music company that was helping produce different stages or different shows for different music producers. And what had to happen for that to happen? He'd have to have the money to do that. So he what he did in the way he says it is that he would look up at the mountain and envision himself being on the mountain and then working himself backwards and leaving breadcrumbs. So by the time he works his way down the mountain, he already has the breadcrumbs and he could just follow the trail, right? So it's like, again, the whole begin with the end in mind, but leave yourself trails so you already know how to get there because you just envision it backwards. Like, think about what you want and then think backwards to where you are and then follow that path because that is the true path.
I love that. That is such great advice. That's brilliant advice. I love that, man. I love that. That
had to be my top number one. I can tell you that because that's why I know the story so well. And he speaks about it. If you look up Jeff Hoffman, he talks about the story.
Yeah.
So it's it was an awesome, like it was good to hear like one-on-one, but it was still like I still go back to his videos and watch it because it's something I share to this day to other people.
And is that something that you've actively used yourself when setting goals for your future businesses and things like that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't just do it like for like long-term vision like he did with Billy Joel. I also do it like about my day. I take it day by day now. I think about my day and like and the things that I not only that I have scheduled, but also like working it backwards from the end of the night, and just literally thinking, how do I want to feel before I go to sleep? And then and that's out there already. But it's like really working backwards to saying like what had to happen for me to feel that way, and then what did I have to do for me to get that done, and just working back to the morning. And it's like a self-reflection before the day. It's part of the ritual, but it's awesome.
Yeah, again, I think that's key advice for people especially for people who struggle to manage their time. And because a lot of guys struggle, even when they're in a corporate job, for example, they struggle to find that time to work on their business. And I think applying something as simple as that will be so key to them finding the right time to work on their own business outside of what they're doing in the corporate world. So. And, I mean, we've spoke a lot about the importance of networking. For someone who's not really familiar with networking or has never really done it before, how do you advise them to, one, try and find the right events, and two, to get in front of the right people? Yeah, I appreciate that question. I wrote an article about a year and a half ago with Elite Daily. And they, as you know, they're mostly their target market is the millennials, right? Young entrepreneurs, young millennials, and they. I spoke about specifically about a strategy that I use in networking that I came up with over the years, and everybody has different ones, but it focuses on networking with a purpose, right? Not networking for the sake of like, hey, I want to go networking because it's a cool thing to do, or because I have a couple of extra business cards I want to give away, or because I want to go make a sale today. Like that's not a strategy. That's a goal. Like it's a goal to make a new connection. It's a goal to make a sale. Like those are all goals, but what are the true tactics, right? So I came up with something that I call, and people could change it, but it's called the 12-4 rule, right? So whenever I go to a networking event, assuming that there's at least 20 people, I would network with and connect with 12 people, and I've had like in deep conversations, find out a little bit more about why they do what they do, and what their goal is. Like I want to know more about what they're going to do, what they want to do, and then at the end of the night or the next day, I mean, I'll follow up specifically with 4. Right? I still connect with the other people, but 4 people particularly, because then I can take those 4
and then I could create a mini mastermind and invite all four of them to a coffee or a breakfast. And we'll go out and I'll see about how they could connect and really, maybe one guy wanted to make a sale or connect with a marketing person, but they couldn't do it. But I met that person at the event. I want to connect them and I want to make sure that they will do business together. I want to be the facilitator of their new connection, right? So making it easier for people to connect with. I think the main advice there is just to be the person who makes things happen for other people. Like everybody wants to go to a networking event to make things happen. So if you're the person who makes things happen for them, they're going to love you and they're going to refer people to you, and they might even hire you for your services because you're just that person for them. You just save them time, right? Because everybody knows that when they come home from a networking event, they have their stack of business cards. And at some point, I know that that's probably going to change, but they have their stack of business cards and they have to follow up. So they're either giving it to an admin and they probably have to pay $10, $20 an hour to do that. They're either saving time or money in the case. If you just make things happen for them without asking for anything, they're gonna do something for you. Like it's just like I've never not gotten anything, even if it was a coffee or lunch or advice, or maybe even money at some point where I was providing a service, but it was gold. It's worked well, and that's that. Just be the person.
Yeah, I love the fact that your main goal is creating opportunities for other people. I think that's amazing and something that people kind of forget when they're setting up their own companies or anything for themselves. They mainly go out for themselves primarily because, a lot of people wrongly think charity starts at home these days. Whereas the fact that you've gone out to create opportunities for other people, naturally, opportunities come back to you in abundance. So, I mean, how many sort of key opportunities have come to you personally just from doing this and helping other people?
Man, I said, I'll be honest, I didn't keep count, but I can tell you, I'm messing with you. I know that that's not what you meant, but it's still to this day, it still happens. Even people that I've been doing this for years, and even people back when, like, I think about when I was a little kid. I mean, people would speak to me nowadays about how I was. I was the exact same way, particularly because I was raised that way, and it just scaled over time. I mean, you could always change who you are if you decide to, but if you don't, then you'll be exactly how you were when you were a kid. Like, and that has never changed. I've always smiled. I've always been polite. I've always been respectful. And I've always wanted to give more than I received. That's just how I've been raised. And I, at the end of the day, I was raised that way, but then I chose that way. And that's the biggest difference between somebody who stays the same and somebody who changes over time. And I just think that to this day, I get either it's an email or a texter. People know me as the connector. Like, it's just like you speak to anybody who I know, they know me as the connector. And now I prefer it that way because now it's like, okay, I have like a platform for people to know me as this. Now let me become one of the best in this category or the best in this category, and then just go from there because people already know me like that. So why not?
Yeah, and do you know what? I think a lot of people will probably be listening to this and thinking, okay, that's cool, but I don't have the confidence to go out and just approach people and connect people. Did you have any issues initially when you first started doing this with confidence, or was it something you just naturally fell into?
At the beginning, it was harder for me to make the initial connection than it was to actually adapt to it. Meaning that once I got through the icebreaker, it was very easy for me to be somebody's friend and really connect with them. But I started to really dig into the icebreaker, and I actually got over it, or I broke through that when I was in the mortgage industry on the phones. Because a lot of what you experience in person is a lot what people experience on the phone as well.
Yeah.
And that was my thing, is I love speaking in person, but on the phone at the beginning it was always awkward. And I learned to do that just by not only just being myself, but really connecting with people and having a roadmap, not a script. There's a big difference between a roadmap and a script. A script, like you're going word for word, it's inauthentic because it's not you. A roadmap is you're just putting things out there to guide you. And I always had that roadmap to just get me started and crack a joke. And I'd always have like a rapport builder, like a funny joke. And, sometimes it didn't work. But at least something that I was passionate about telling, a story I was passionate about telling, I'd always tell a story, even if it wasn't related to what I called for, just to break the ice. People know that I'm human. and then I dig right into what I'm good at. It's just becoming somebody's friend.
Yeah.
And that really helped me in networking too, because then at the beginning when I'm introducing myself, I was able to do that. So that was my biggest challenge at first, but then I didn't just intrinsically have it. I had to develop it over time.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, because I think I've done this before as well, especially when trying to make sales. I've put together a whole script, and then I find I'm trying to spend a lot of time reading this bloody script as opposed to just going with the conversation. And I think even myself, I've taken that away from that answer, because the roadmap idea is so much better than the script.
Yeah. It's true.
So you spoke about your mentor quite a few times in this interview already. How influential has it been for you having a mentor in your life, in your business and in your personal life as well?
It's huge. It is so huge. I mean, if you want to integrate truly, and this is something I found out, if you want to integrate the same success as per how you perceive it in your personal life as you do in your business life, then why not get a coach? Why not have somebody who's going to hold you accountable to really get you to the next level? Particularly because I have no problem having somebody that's really on top of me on certain things that I want. Like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I want. So it's not like I don't want something and they're trying to shove something down my throat. And, Sam, you and I spoke about this before, but my first initial, ever, and people have said this before as well, mentor was my mother. And my mother was my, she and I, we have a special relationship. She had me at a young age. She was about 17. And for some time, I was an only child with her, right? So she was definitely, obviously she was young. She didn't really know what to do. She was a brand new mother, 17, 18. But I think when I was about 4 or 5 years old, her and I, for some time, we were homeless, right? So we lived in, I forgot where, but I know it was in the city somewhere in Manhattan. And, but I didn't know, right? So I was so young, I didn't know the difference. But the things that she would say to me, I still remember to this day, like the things that she would share about being happy and choosing and just loving life. I mean, man, I was a kid. I didn't even know the difference. Like, to me, I might as well have been a billionaire at 4 years old because I felt like it. And I was just so happy about being, with her. And it was just that special bond, right? So that's one of the things I learned overall. That's when I really learned what it was to have a mentor, and that's when it was I realized it was my mother, right? I didn't know the word mentor, but I knew that she was somebody who I looked up to, who taught me so many things. And the biggest, I think, out of all the reasons that I am the way that I am, and this is why when I meet somebody, I ask them, "Why are you the way that you are?" And if they ask me, I tell them this story because this is why I am the way that I am. And it came from my first mentor, my mom. And it's so funny. I just had breakfast with her this morning. Like, it's like I do it with her, and we always discuss this. So it's cool. So the importance of having a mentor, you'll always have one. You just have to listen. I mean, it's not a matter of like you have to reach out to somebody. There's always somebody there that's going to be speaking to you, regardless if they know you or not. That person could be your mentor. And that's when you get to reach out to them. And I think that, one of the biggest, this might be one of your questions, I might be answering it, but one of the biggest things about really reaching out to find a new mentor is finding a way to give them credibility or just add value to them without expecting anything in return. Or if you want to, you can ask for whatever you want in return. I'll give you an example. It's just like a matter of giving somebody credibility. So if somebody is out there that's really good at sales and you want them to mentor you on how to sell, then perhaps maybe you could listen to some of the content that they've given you specifically and just apply it, and then bring them the results that you have from what they shared on, like, let's say their video or whatnot. And at that point, you say, look, this is what you taught me. You don't even know me, but this is what I got from it. This is the results I got. But I also realized that you're really good at this as well. What would it take for you to mentor me, right? So it's like you already gave them the credibility that what they said worked, and you actually put it into action. And then you're bringing it back to them so that they realize, hey, what they said, it worked. You validated it for them. You did them a favor. You added value to them, and now they would be open and willing to do it. I've never had a particular experience where people were not willing to give back after that. And you didn't even have to do that for some people, but for the people that you really did need to do that with, they would always be willing to give back, because it's really unheard of that people do that on a daily basis now.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice, because a lot of guys, you're right, that was one of my questions, but you answered it perfectly, was how do they even approach these guys to ask them to be mentors? But one thing that people do get confused about is they kind of approach mentors by following trends. So someone who's hot at the moment, they'll try and approach someone because they're hot on the scene and they think they can help them. I mean, how do you advise guys to recognise if someone is the right fit for them and can actually help them with their own personal business, as opposed to just going for someone who everyone else thinks would be a great mentor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the main thing is just really, you have to be able to resonate with the person, right? Like, it's like saying that somebody like Bill Gates will be a great mentor for anybody. Well, Bill Gates, I mean, it's Bill Gates. Who wouldn't want to be mentored by Bill Gates? But there could be people out there who are just not working on certain things that would make sense to have Bill Gates as a mentor. Like, it's really aligning and resonating with the person as well. Not everybody would be a fit for Bill Gates, and Bill Gates might not be a fit for everybody. So you really have to take a look at and take a look at the person's backstory, like maybe where their upbringings are from, right? Maybe what they've done. That's one thing, of course. I think that's the most conspicuous thing, what they've done. Right? You look at Bill Gates. Everybody knows what he's done.
Yeah.
He's been very loud about it. But what's his backstory? Like, where did he grow up? How did he grow up? How was he raised? Who is he like behind? The facade of like this major guy in the world who has all this money. What is it that he does differently? What are his habits? What does he read? What does he do? How does he treat his wife? Like, things like that is going to a deeper level of really understanding like who my mentor is. Because if I'm getting a mentor who is a billionaire and it seems like somebody who would be a good mentor, I really want to know what he does in the little things before I learn the big things from him. And that's the main thing, is learn what people do in the little things more before you learn the big things from them.
Yeah, I love that. 'Cause it's like I say, if you've got a mentor that's you can't even get along with purely just in the business acronym alone, you're not really going to get much from that person because they're never going to open up to you. So I think that's something that people have got to realise, and that's a great point. You touched there about what mentors read, and you touched earlier on how much you love to read as well. I mean, how much do you feel reading has contributed to your success and educating you in your business and personal life?
Big time. I mean, I've read my first book. It's so funny. I was going to say the first book that I ever read, but I remembered before I read that book, I read another book. First book I ever read was the Harry Potter book, from beginning to end. Like, That was when I was like, I think I was like maybe 12. But after that, when I was 14, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, great book.
And that was a really cool book to read at that age, because I didn't know maybe 90% of the words in that book. It was just high level, but it was just really eye-opening and really shifted my mindset. And because of everything that I was going through, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I'd say, yeah, big time for sure. It has. And I read now more than ever before, but now I'm learning to manage my reading in aligning it with what I'm doing to make sure that I'm actually doing what I'm learning. So I don't just read for the sake of reading as much. At this point, I read for the sake of learning and being able to implement it. So now I take my time reading books and I go back to it. And obviously I have notes and I have little Post-its. And I go back to it and I actually think about how could I take this and apply it to what I'm doing right now. And then I actually apply it. And if it doesn't work, then I go back and review it and I keep going back and forth. And maybe I did something wrong. But at least I take my time reading the book if I'm going to read it, because it's so important. Like, if I'm going to read something, if I'm going to invest time in it, like, I want to make sure that that time that I invest is actually getting a return on investment somewhere in my life. Yeah. Right. And I think about the 4 categories we speak about, like the mindset. Right. So if I'm in a time where I'm like, I want to learn something about my mind that I didn't know before about what I could do and what my capacity is. So I'll pick up a mindset book, and I'll learn a couple of things. I'll apply it. I'll start having conversations, and I'll start implementing those things. I'll start asking questions, and I'll see how it works. And if it works, then great. I'll continue doing it. If not, then I'll try something different. Same thing with business, and same thing with like if it's relationships. Like that's one thing that I want to get better at. I want to continue to get better at, and continue to provide, because I don't want to be the guy who is all about business. And then I'm going to, 10 years from now, I'm going to say, you know what, it's time to actually focus on my relationship. But at that time, I might not be in a relationship anymore because I was not focused. I want to be able to have that integration where everything can be part of everything. And that, to me is super important.
Yeah. Again, I think you gave some great advice again there, just on the point of implementing as you're learning. I think that is crucial to actually, doing something with the information you've got in front of you, because far too often I think people just read books for the case of putting them up on the shelf as trophies.
Right.
And, they read all these books, but then they don't do nothing with the information. So I think people, if they're going to take one thing away from that, just take action on the stuff you're learning all the time. That's got to be the best way to do it,
Yeah.
And for someone who's just starting out, setting up their own company, what books stand out to you that they could go away and read now, which would help them the most in the developmental stage of their business?
Yeah, I'd say off the bat, it could be depending on what type of business they have, but off the bat, the first one that comes up is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries.
Yeah.
That's a great book, just to learn a little bit of, it breaks things down to another level. I'm personally reading Lean Analytics right now. It's a lot. It's all analytical. It says it in the name, but it's super in depth with finding out more about like churn rate and subscriptions and just finding out numbers and how to scale. And it's very much in depth, right? So I'm taking my time with that book because number one, it's a 400-page book. But number two, it's definitely something that I don't want to just read, especially this type of book. I don't want to read a book like this and just skim through it and then put it on the shelf, like you said, like a trophy. I want to be able to implement that. So, yeah, the Lean Startup has been good. I definitely, for the sake of sales, I would read Pitch Anything. I think it's by, I actually have it in front of me, Oren Klaff. Pitch Anything, great book. Really, I think, revolutionizes the way people think of sales. And this is a guy who did it in a very high caliber, high level type of sales, and he did it really well. So I definitely recommend that book.
Yeah, they're both great books. I've actually read both of those myself, and Pitch Anything was amazing. Absolutely amazing book. Brilliant. If you haven't got that one, go out and buy it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're running sort of towards the end of the interview now, Joe. So what's next on the agenda for you? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm starting a company here. It's one of the things. So the chronological order of how I did things, especially this year, was that I was doing the 100 videos in 100 days specifically because I wanted to find a way to raise startup capital to start my own business. And I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I just said I'm going to get started, and so I got started on the videos. I then ended up doing the membership website, which was great, and I got sponsorships on that. I got different memberships on that. So I was able to raise enough capital to get my company started, and we should be launching here within the next 4 to 5 weeks. So the company, what it is, it's an online marketplace for startup entrepreneurs to connect with and hire business consultants, right? So it's a really good platform, specifically because I have a background in networking and connecting. This is what this is going to do. And I'm super excited. We're actually going to start the concept here in New York and scale. Obviously, I have connections in London, Australia, and also in other cities around the world. So we'll go to different places, but we're going to start the concept here in New York, and I'm going to getting the first experts on board specifically, and just start networking, connecting, and connecting in a different way. So yeah, I'm excited about this program. The name of the company here is BizzCliq, right? So that's BizzCliq. And if you go to BizzCliq.com, you see a landing page, but we've been in development here, and we're getting ready to launch within, again, like I said, 4 to 5 weeks.
That's exciting, really exciting, very close, very close. And is that going to be a face-to-face consultancy company, or is you going to be putting people together online as well?
Right. It's going to be online. If they decide to go outside of the platform and they wanted to meet, they can, for sure. But what we do is more facilitating the consultation meeting online, right? So we're facilitating that initial meeting without having to have people to go to a networking event or having to go to people to go to the outside of their perimeters to be able to meet somebody or hire a consultant for, let's just say, an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours, and just to get to know what they're about, right? So I give you a perfect example. I could be the beta here. I'm a startup entrepreneur. I go to the website and I realize that, you know what, I don't really know how to market myself that much. I don't know what my value proposition or my core value is. So I want to be able to hire or learn from a marketing expert, a marketing consultant. So I see a marketing consultant, let's just say his name is Sam Payne, and he has his content on there. His content's on there, and it's great. I'm watching his videos. I'm seeing his blogs, just like any other website. I could check out his content, and based on that, I could decide whether I want to hire him for an hour or two just to consult, not so he could provide a service for me, but so he could consult me on what I need to know. And if I decide to hire him, like, I could do it, and I could do that outside of the perimeters of the platform. But this is really for that initial consultation.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and good luck with that one, because I think it's going to be amazing when that launches. And for the guys listening, I'll put all the links to BizzCliq in the show notes as well. And when that comes to launch, we'll be pumping stuff out for that as well. So keep an eye on that one. Okay, Joe. So finally, last big question is, if you had to give one piece of advice to someone that was just starting out today, what would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. I think it would mostly focusing on self-reflecting on why you are the way that you are. I like to ask, especially when I interview people, I like to ask people why they are the way that they are. But if you sit down and just kind of write that question at the top, especially when you're starting out a business, write that question at the top of a piece of paper. Why am I the way that I am? And answer it. Take about 5-10 minutes, answer it, and make that your core value proposition. And remember that when you go on and you start your business and you start your family and you start your, let's say, your wellness, whatever it is that you're starting and you're going in and whatever direction you're going in life, always look back at that and say, look, this is why I am the way that I am, right? I know that the whole concept is start with why and the whole, what's your why in business, but just focus on why you are the way that you are before you focus on why you're starting a business. Because that's going a little bit deeper into a next level of, like, this is more into my foundation. This is why I am the way that I am. Now I can answer why I want to get started. And that's really deeper. So when you go deeper with yourself, you'll be able to go deeper with people. And that's the big difference between you having the longevity, the energy, the power to be able to sustain and scale over time, than just trying to go into it and shoot into it just because you're excited or you want to become a millionaire or you want to do whatever you want to do. But just dig deep and then go. Yeah,
that's amazing advice. And to wrap things up, Joe, how can people find you online and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, Joe Gilani, Joegilani, Joe Gilani. I mean, that's literally my handle on everything, Twitter, Facebook. You could find me on Instagram. You could find me just about anywhere. You type in my name, I'll be there. I think the first thing that comes up is LinkedIn. I'm a big connector, right? So you always see that. But I think the main thing is that you could always add me on Facebook or you could always message me. I'm always open to it. We'll make time for it. And I'm here. I'm excited for this. I appreciate your time, Sam. I really do. I'm grateful. And I'm excited what comes about of this and who we can help from this as well.
Yeah. And guys, I'll put all those links in the show notes as well. So if you do want to find Joe, just scroll down and all the links will be there for you to get in touch with him. And I highly recommend you do as well, because he's great at what he does and he can really help you out with your business as well and getting in the right networks especially. So and that's it, Joe. That's all we've got time for today. So thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time and coming on the show. It was brilliant talking to you, and I hope a lot of people got a lot from that.
Yeah, Sam, it was such an honor. Thank you so much. I love what you do here, and I'm excited for you.
Lovely. Cheers, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, what a great show, and thank you, Joe, for coming on today and just really going into a lot of detail on how networking has helped you so much and how you're building a business from that. And guys, if you're going to walk away with anything from today's session, go out, start networking, start building small networks of people for yourself and grow your base of people that you can call upon. And ultimately, by helping others and putting them in contact with each other, so many more doors are going to open for you. So I would just thoroughly recommend going out there, start networking, start putting yourself out there, because so many good things can happen just from doing that. And if you want to reach out to Joe and ask him more about any of this, then I'll publish all of his contact links in the show notes below. So, and like Joe said, he's more than happy for guys to get in touch with him. So just feel free to reach out for him, because he's such a cool guy and he will do everything he can to help you. And if it means helping you a bit more with how to network, how to get into the right shows, how to get in contact with people, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you do that. And lastly, guys, if you did enjoy this show, then it would mean the world to us if you would subscribe, rate and review our show on iTunes, because we are still aiming to get on that new and noteworthy section, and it's very important that we've consistently got people subscribe, rate and reviewing our show and listening as the shows come out and paying an interest in what we're doing. And it does mean a lot to me that you guys listen in every week. And I love the fact that I'm getting a lot of good feedback from people, and people saying that they're liking the content, it's helping them out a lot in their businesses and giving them that spark, that enthusiasm again to go out and try and do something for themselves, which is just amazing. So I'm going to continue putting this stuff out all the time, guys, okay? And to help me make this show grow bigger, I just need that small favour of you, just to go onto that iTunes and subscribe, rate and review our show. And that is it, guys, for session 005. We've got some more great interviews lined up, which I'm looking forward to releasing over the next few weeks. I hope you all have an amazing week, and I'll see you for the next episode of the MyCoda podcast.